All right. I think we're live. I'm not seeing the same thing that I normally see, but let's just go with it. So, hello, everyone. My name is Lori Swanson. I am the CEO and founder of Inspire Tech. Inspire Tech is a career wayfinding coaching company. And I do both private coaching and one-on-one coaching. And as you can see behind me in this, today's background is a little different if you've been watching me on the regular and seen different backgrounds. Generally, I have my career alchemy background because I'm also the founder of Career Alchemy, which is a community of women gathering every week to support each other in work and life. But I'm running a special workshop called Using Creativity to Unlock Career Clarity. And the QR code will get you to the page that will give you all the details. But we start October 10th, Friday. We have 4 calls over 14 days. And during that 14 days, you're going to be using my creative metaphor process in order to tap into your higher wisdom, gather data and information about your career dilemma that you might be having right now, and help you to get career clarity. So that's what this is all about, but using like fun, creative process to do so. So it's a lot of fun. This is my 4th time running this workshop. It's a popular one. And so I hope you join. It's free. So anyone who is interested in this, I welcome all of the women in and around tech who are feeling a bit of a career crossroads happening for them and looking for more clarity. And this is the way to do it. So that's my little mini commercial. Thank you for that. Giving me a little bit of time right up front. I like the commercials. You know how at movies they run commercials up front instead of, I remember when they ran no commercials at all. I remember sitting in the theater. I'm almost positive it was a Pepsi commercial with my husband. And all of a sudden, this Pepsi commercial comes on, and we kind of look at each other and we're like, when do they have commercials at movies like that? But now it's a common everyday thing. And in some of the streaming services, they will have, just like old time television and current television, they have commercials all the way through whatever show you're watching. But I also have some streaming services where they front load all the commercials. And I really like that because I'm happy to watch the commercials, but once I'm into the program, I just want to be like deep into the program. So that's what I'm doing for you today, in case you didn't know, is, giving you the commercial up front, join Using Creativity to Unlock Your Career Clarity. And then maybe at the end, I'll do a little reminder of that. But in the middle, all we're going to be talking about today is the latest blog that I put out was called My Sonogram Technician, #MeToo, and Career Empowerment. So this is a little bit of the personal story. I always have some sort of story in my blogs, but in this particular one, usually I'm talking about either, a coaching client and something, something they're going through, how they overcame something, using some of the tools and the coaching and those sorts of things that I offer. But this was a particular story, a personal story. So a couple of weeks ago now, I had gone in for an ultrasound, um, because I'd been having some womanly issues. And so I was going in for this ultrasound, and I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I haven't had an ultrasound since I was pregnant with my kids, right? And I absolutely remember how wonderful it was to have a sonogram and to have, the doctor, put the jelly on the little wand, that they then put on the top of my pregnant belly, and my husband and I were able to see our child and see the heartbeat, hear the heartbeat, and it was such a miracle, right? It was so, I, you know, and then of course they print you out the picture, and Oh my gosh. It just, it was really cool. It was really cool. And so what I remembered was that the jelly that they put on the wand was a little cold, but otherwise not uncomfortable whatsoever. So I get there, doing, the basic stuff, the external routine. She takes the wand, she puts the jelly on, she goes around my belly. She's taking pictures, right? She's taking these pictures. And then she says, um, that she goes, now we're going to do the internal exam. And I'm like, oh, of course they'd have to do an internal exam. And she said, I'm going to put jelly on the wand and then I'm going to hand you the wand so that you can insert it yourself. And then I'll take over from there. And I remember immediately I thought to myself, huh, that seems a little odd to me. Like that I would do that, right? That she would, the technician or the sonographer would hand it over to me. And so I said that to her. I said, oh my gosh, I said, I'm kind of surprised. That seems unusual. And she said, well, it is kind of unusual. She said, but I believe that it's important that you're in control. And I just like, I can't even describe how I felt in that moment. I felt empowered, absolutely felt empowered. And I was surprised, um, empowered, grateful, touched, and then she went on to tell me a story of a woman who was having the same sort of exam that I was having, 73 years old. And she went through the same spiel with her. I'm going to put the jelly on the wand and then I'm going to have you insert it and then I'll take over from there. And she said that after she gave her spiel, this 73-year-old woman started crying, heavy sobs. And she said that she had been raped as a teenager. And for the first time in a long time, she felt back in control of her own body. And that choice by my sonographer, it was simple, it was small, it was so human, right? But so powerful. And, so I was asking her about her background, and she said, I've been doing this for 25 years. And, she's not inventing a cure for cancer, she's not solving global warming, right? But in that room, in that small, cold, it's cold with a linoleum tile or whatever room, um, with that tiny wand and some jelly, she did something equally as important in my mind. She gave a woman power over her own experience. It was a very small, like I said, but quiet revolution. Huge, like a revolution. Nearly 81% of women in the United States report experiencing some level of sexual harassment or assault in their lifetime. 81% of the women in the US. And 38, almost 40% of that, of women in, report having that experience in the workplace. That can be from the uncomfortable male gaze to the being subjected to degrading celebrations. Like I remember I worked, relatively when I was young in my career, my early 20s, I worked at a company and one of the men was celebrating like 40th birthday or something, and they brought a stripper into the office. I, I'm I mean, I don't know, does that still go on? But I remember being so uncomfortable, so confused. I thinking to myself, is this normal? Should I be okay with this? I didn't have a real voice. Like I would have done something differently knowing what I know now. And I think that's true for lots of uh, you know, things in my past, especially when you start thinking about being, um, sexually harassed. This is a harassment. This was not the first time that had happened to me, right? And, I am definitely one of the 81% or whatever that number was. Um, and, and my guess is that the number's actually high for repeating offenses, that this isn't just a one-off thing that happens to us, right? It certainly wasn't for me. And I remember recently thinking to myself that when I went back all the way back in time to the very first time that I felt sexually harassed, and that after the experience, I felt such shame, and and because I was young, I didn't really know what to do with it. I felt like I had done something wrong. The shame just layers on top of shame of other future, types of harassment and things. And then there you have the trauma, that laying on top of trauma, that impacts us, right? And so uh so male gaze, the stripper, sort of degrading kinds of celebrations, comments, um, the unwanted touching, um, coercion, taking advantage of situations, all the way to, full on sexual assault. And so we, speaking for myself, carry shame and fear, impacting my self-esteem, impacting, I would probably say the choices that I made going forward. But all of that this was not in my blog, but because of this event with this sonographer, um, I've been thinking about all of this. I've been thinking back into my own, where I felt disempowered, um, and the shame that I felt and all of that. And I realize now, of course, that if I'd known better, I would have done something different. I would have spoken up. I would have said something different. I would have not put myself in that situation, or I would have, walked away from that situation, or I would have said, heck no, that's not happening situation, sort of thing. And so I know now that there's no shame for me to carry. There's nothing that I need to do differently. Um, I can let go of all of that, because I do know I would have done things differently at each of those small, uh, you know, little traumas everywhere that I incurred. And I say that's also true for all of you, is um, if you'd been in a position where you could have done something differently, you would have. And so, no shame, no blame, no need to take it forward. You are powerful beyond measure. And this sonographer, with her um, tiny wand in that cold office, gave power back to this 73-year-old woman. And we can do that too. So we can have opportunities every day to restore dignity to somebody, to remove the shame off, not shame on, right? I heard that Joel Osteen said that once. Shame off. I don't shame off. We can help to lift other women up. We can help to women to reclaim their power, right? That has too often been taken from each of us. And so maybe that is what real power looks like. It's a quiet revolution that through everyday choices, where we remind ourselves and the women in our lives and the women we work with that we're not alone, that we're not voiceless, that as we can look at times of regret where shame has been layered on shame, and we can let that go, because we know now that we're not powerless. And if we could do things different, we would have done things differently. That and if we were in a position where we absolutely couldn't have done anything different than we did, then we made the choice we needed to make, and no shame in that. No shame in that. And so we are never without power when we empower someone else. So that is what is going to be your quiet revolution this week. What will you do to empower yourself, empower another woman, shake the shame off, leave it where it belongs, like not with you. Um, and thank your sonographers. thank thank the women of the quiet revolution and the loud, brazen, bold revolution. We need both of us, all of us. And that's it for my thing today. To I just really this was vulnerable to share, but I I walked out of that doctor's appointment, that ultrasound, and I just knew I had to talk about this. I just knew I had to, because it's changing me and how I see myself and how I see my, um, things that happened in the past. And it's also, I want to continue to give voice to the power that we have, that needs to be out in the world. This feminine, beautiful, amazing power. This is the more of that that's out there, the more that the trauma that we're all experiencing these days, sexual and otherwise, can start to change. Because it is, I believe, um, it is the feminine energy that's going to shift everything. We're in a disruption, and um, empowering other women, removing shame from ourselves and from other people, um, taking care of our traumas, you know, uh, gathering together in community. There's nothing more important right now than these small villages across of women and men across the world who are supporting each other. So come join me inside of Career Alchemy Academy. Come join me for something fun in using creativity to unlock career clarity. And let's just, be a revolutionary. A peaceful revolutionary. That's me. I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you.